why you shouldn't chase anyone. Why chasing is a sign of insecurity, of uncertainty, of excess availability. And that, my friends, is not attractive. Now, there's nothing wrong with pursuit, healthy pursuit, being clear with what you want, stating openly what your needs are, where you stand, what your values are, pursuing in an authentic, magnetic way. Both women and men will do this. How we pursue unravels itself in different ways. But when we chase, we exude desperation. We're telling the other person we're coming from fear. When we do anything in excess and extreme, we are unhealthy and imbalanced in our own posturing. Generally, our self-worth will be low. How we see ourselves, how we believe in ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we connect to our own hearts, give and receive love comes from a place of fear and wounding. I remember in my life so many times, and even now when I feel disconnected from myself, when I feel uneasy, when I'm pushed to my edges and my limits, whether it's in business, whether it's ideating something new, whether it's problem solving, I see myself and I notice myself sometimes coming from a desperate energy because I attach myself to an outcome. And relationships are no different. We attach ourselves to what we want in a relationship, or we attach ourselves to having to be with someone, or we think that this we fantasize often that this relationship or this person is going to be ideal. It's going to be the best thing I've ever experienced. I remember when I was 18, the first big love of my life, and she just broke my heart, and I chased her and I cried for her and I gave her all these things, and it was an excessive pursuit coming from desperation, this need to be liked and loved and appreciated by someone else, because I was pursuing that approval ultimately that I did not get from my father, that attention that I did not get from my father, and I just projected that into my intimate relationships. I fell, what they say, head over heels, massively, madly in love. And I was mad. The way I was behaving was ridiculous. I would get angry and upset if she didn't respond to me, didn't return my text messages or my phone calls. Man, I lost my shit, literally. I would get my phone, I would throw it across the room. It fed into my anger, and it was just another excuse to vent aggression that I wasn't dealing with, that I was suppressing. That's a bit of a side note. But the point I'm making is I came from this very, very desperate energy. Now, what's fueling or feeding this video today? What's fueling this topic? I received a question from a young man, a viewer, a follower. And a viewer of my videos. So let me read his question out, and let me go a little bit into biological attraction dynamics, just a little bit, not too much, because it's a very large body of research. And let me go a little bit into self-worth. And really how when we choose to value who we are, what we attract and what we bring in and how we behave in a relationship completely shifts. So let me read this out to you. I fell in love with someone last fall. We fell fast and hard, a love I haven't felt. She hasn't either, she says. Then a few months later, after a cactus ceremony, she realized she had past shit with her ex she needed to fix in herself before we could be life partners. I left. She went back to him. She says she doesn't love him and it's for her own growth. Months later, we started fooling around again and acted almost as if we were in a relationship, but she is still with this other guy, saying there is no love there and that she is just trying to learn her true inner workings, and he triggers things for her to see, for her to work on. I feel in my heart and soul she loves me, like she says she does, but should I be waiting like I am? That describes about 1% of it. Thank you, Steph. Love you, brother. I would say that probably does describe 1% of it. There's a lot there. So firstly, let's unpack this just very briefly. She has every right to be making those statements. If that's what she feels is true for her, then it's necessary. If she believes that there's a growth edge for her in being with this man, and she's being let's assume surface level, taking for exactly what she's saying, she's being really honest. Let's just assume that for a moment. And she's stating openly she's just there to learn because he triggers her. That environment produces something within her that then she's working through actively and consciously to grow from. Not wrong, not right, that's her choice. That's amazing. Great. And she's being very clear to this young man that has sent me a message. Great. Should he stay around? I'm not in a position to give advice to anyone, per se. I will tell you what I would do. If it was me, I wouldn't stick around if I wanted to be exclusive with this woman. Now, if he doesn't mind that she's sharing her energy and her intimacy, and she may not be sexually active with this guy, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the intimacy where she's going deep into her own growth edges with this other man who's an ex-partner, who's not a partner, but they're living together and they're in each other's space. If that's okay, if he feels good about that, then he can pursue the relationship. Now, to excessively chase her from a place of desperation isn't necessarily healthy. Now, what attraction dynamics would say is that if this man makes himself excessively available when she's got all these options, and he doesn't come from a place where he does appear to have options in terms of who he can spend his intimate time with, biological attraction dynamics would tell us that that's an unhealthy posturing for a man. Because what it demonstrates to that woman is that he's uncertain, that he's coming from desperation, that he's coming from fear, that he needs her, he has a needy energy. So what that does is repel the woman at some point. It may not be doing that right now, but at some point soon, it's probably going to repel her. Because a man that doesn't have any options isn't necessarily a man that she would want in her life. This is biological, this is primal, this is brainstem, cerebellum, old brain stuff. That still plays a part in the way we relate today, in the way we see the world, the way we understand the world, navigate our own emotions, navigate relationships and dynamics. We're not purely driven by reproduction and mateship, and in some sense we are, and we can't ignore that. There are so many layers to the human construct in today's day and age, and so attraction dynamics vested in old biology and neurology and how we've evolved over the last, couple of million years, from humanoids to the last couple of 100,000 years as Homo sapiens, etc. The development of language, the rising consciousness, the meaning that we add to things, the complexity of society and culture, childhood wounding, all of these new elements that now add a completely new dynamic to how we relate and how we really see ourselves give and receive love. So attraction dynamics vested in biology plays a part, but it's not the whole picture. But if he's coming from desperation, if he's not valuing himself, if this young man wants to actually be exclusive and he's just taking whatever she gives him, that's not healthy, and that's an indication of his low self-worth and him not believing in his value. And I get that there's attraction there. I get that he cares for her. I get that they move both deeply into a very fast love very quickly. And that can, those hormones that rush through our bodies for a period of time, really, they almost set the tone for the meaning that we add to those experiences and the way we interpret those experiences. And so the opportunity here and the choice here is to get very real and ask, where is this yearning to be with this person coming from? Is it coming from a place of old wounding and desperation and fear that I'm going to be alone, or I'm never going to find a love like this? I'm never going to experience this level of depth and intimacy? Or is it coming from a place of, I really feel clear and legitimate, and I'm coming from a healthy, open, transparent place with respect to how I care for her, and it really sincerely doesn't bother me that she's sharing intimate time with other men or other people? Then that's okay. There's no wrong or right. It's the come from and the intention that's really important. For me personally, when I started to shift my come from, and I started to come from a really healthy place that was transparent and in integrity, my words were matching my actions were matching my words. I was authentic in my needs. I was able to set healthy boundaries. I did a podcast on healthy boundaries. It was awesome. And we really delved into healthy boundaries and definitions around that. But when I started to set healthy boundaries for myself and got really clear on what I wanted, and I pursued and I stopped chasing, I stopped coming from an excessive, desperate place, and I began to come from a place of courage and realness for who I was, I lived a far more peaceful life, and a life that I was really glad to be in. And so with all of this, just ask, what is your come from? Where are you coming from? What is your intention? Are you coming from fear, or are you coming from love? Power and blessings to you, beautiful people. Thank you for being here.